You're listening to Sleepovers, a podcast brought to you by Novotel. As we acknowledge Earth Month, this episode we're going to talk all things slow travel and how it's so important to take and make time to appreciate all those amazing things around us. I'm chatting with Jack McCann today, who is an amazing photographer. Jack, thank you so much for joining me here today. Can you tell us a bit more about the work you do?
Yes, thanks for having me. Thank you for these incredible pyjamas. I'm not usually a pyjama guy, but I think you've converted me. They're extremely comfortable. So I've been creating content primarily on Instagram for the last 6 or so years.
Mm-hmm.
That all started through my wife's YouTube channel, funnily enough. So back then she was building her channel and building her audience, and along with that came a bigger workload.
Mm-hmm.
So she very kindly asked me if I would like to help her out and work full time with her on her channel. I was bricklaying at the time back then, so it was a completely different world to me, or to what I was doing back then. That was when I started, I guess you could call it my photography journey.
Yeah. You must have been quite creative already, because it does take a creative person to...
Yeah, I'd always been interested in cinematography and things like that. But I really found a passion for it.
Yeah.
You know, when I started working with it and, you know, learning the gear and stuff. But I'd never studied photography in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
So when I started working with my wife, I just taught myself how to use a camera.
So it is self-taught?
Yeah, you could say that. I just learned from scratch, learned my way around the camera, and as I say, it went on leaps and bounds. We'd done a lot of brand work back then. So we're getting the opportunity to travel a lot and see loads of the world, and that gave me the opportunity to really broaden my horizons with photography.
Yeah. So whenever you started photography in a more supportive sense for your partner or your now wife, it's now very much, from when I look at your pages and your photography and your art, it seems very much your own. So how did that eclipse from being...
Yeah, so as I say, she was sort of the driving force of me finding my passion in photography, and we were getting all these incredible opportunities to travel to some amazing places, and gave me so many opportunities myself thereafter.
You're a dad now, you've got a newborn.
Yes.
How do you make time for your art and take time for your art?
I get up really, really early in the morning. No, I mean, part of it is true. A lot of the work I do sort of requires a level of planning, I guess you could say. So I'll kind of look to work in my spare time, or if I've got my own private jobs out with the work I'm doing for brands, or with my wife, who I still work for.
Okay.
I'll look to do it in my spare time. I actually I was through in Edinburgh. You mentioned earlier you're quite familiar with Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, yeah.
Yeah, I was through in Edinburgh. Oh, sorry, it was Stirling. My bad.
My husband went to university in Stirling.
Did he?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, there we go. So you know the Wallace Monument?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Okay, so I went through to the Wallace Monument. Actually reached out to them beforehand, and I said, I've got this idea to film a drone video at the top of the tower. My idea was to have it panning off the tower and get some montage clips around the base of it and of Stirling and the castle and things like that. But I know it's a protected monument of sorts. So I reached out to the National Trust of Scotland, and I put forward my idea, and I said, is there any chance this is possible? And they got back pretty much instantly. They said that they love my work and they'd love for me to come along and film it, but the only stipulation was that I'd have to do it out with opening, or the public hours. It's open.
Yeah.
So I was like, fair enough, no, that's fine, I can make do. So I got up at the crack of dawn. It was like an hour's drive through, about half an hour to get up to the base of it, half an hour to get my equipment up in the air and get all the shots I needed. And then by the time I was back down and back home, my baby was just waking up. So I'm finding that my spare time is the best practice now.
Yeah. And you mean to tell stories through your photographs. So what does that mean?
It's something I've just started to incorporate into my work. As I said, I've always been a fan of cinematography and things like that, and you know, massive movie directors like Christopher Nolan and things. And when you watch their work, you know, it stands apart from everything else, and it's so unique. What I've been trying to do recently is really give the viewer a sense of the feeling that I have when I'm creating the content,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. So I'm looking to evoke emotion in them or a reaction. And to do that, I'll use different perspectives, and I'll change up the composition of my work. I'll look for things that will catch my eye in the environment, like structures or unique buildings. I'll look for movement, and I'll take action shots and incorporate that into my work as well. And when you bring all that together, it really creates a sense of depth in the image or video. And through that, you can tell your story. I also find as well, if you incorporate a nice piece of music that ties it all together. Yeah, so that's
Really
that's what I've
sets the
been,
scene for the viewer.
yeah, sets the scene, and that's what I've been trying to do as of late.
Yeah, you're obviously really passionate about it, and
Yeah.
I can really sense that. So what does that bring to your personal well-being? It obviously brings you a great sense of joy and happiness and
Yeah.
fulfillment.
Yes, it does. I've found over the course of the years I've been doing it, it's been very therapeutic to me, especially the editing side of things.
I bet you can lose hours and hours of your day.
Yeah, man. Like I can spend like a full day editing like one clip, for example. And I find that I'm quite anal about the details. If there's a slight colour grade or something that's off, I want to wipe it and
You're a
start again.
perfectionist, I can tell.
Yeah, I like my work to be sort of the way that I thought it would turn out to be, which isn't always the case, but I try and follow my initial idea as close as possible. And it's good as well, because I'd like to look back on my work in, say, 10 or 20 years' time and really remember how I felt in the moment when I was capturing the content. So yeah, that's something I've been doing.
Yeah.
recently.
So we mentioned the word perfectionist there. How do you get that perfect shot?
The mythical perfect shot.
Yeah.
Luck. It's a wee bit of luck, and I don't really think there is a thing. I don't think there is such a thing as the perfect shot. I mean, you can have the perfect conditions. You can have a perfect sunrise, for example. You can have perfect camera settings set up to capture what you're about to shoot. But if you give all those things to 3 different creators, you always end up with a different end result. And that's one thing I love about photography and videography and creating. Everyone can have a different end result. All can be great, but none are ever going to be perfect. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I know that getting the perfect shot, I always try and do it as well, because obviously I live quite a bit of my life on Instagram and online, and I've tried to learn photography, and it's no mean feat for anyone listening how difficult it can be to try and learn all those settings in the camera. I've went to numerous courses, I've really tried. I always go back to auto mode, Jack.
Yeah. It took me a while to get off auto mode myself. But once you do, it opens up endless possibilities. And that's what I found for my work anyway.
Yeah. And there's a certain vibe that comes from your work. Can you tell us a bit more about that? It really, it comes across as very much you. If you see your pictures of your work, you can tell it's by you and from you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about someone saying that there's a certain vibe to your work?
I guess, as I was saying earlier, I want to sort of tell a story through my work. And I've found that slowing everything down has been a great thing, and I'm able to tell the story easier through that. I found, I think it was maybe about a year ago, what I was doing was following a trend of, really, really snappy, quick clips and putting too much out there at the one time. And as much as you can tell a story through that, and you can get a lot more through, obviously, quicker, and it's so much more easy to consume, I found that slowing everything down and incorporating the use of slow motion in my video clips and things like that is a lot easier to tell a story.
Quality over quantity?
Yeah, I'd say so. And again, it's something that when I was asked to do this podcast, I'd really been thinking about, which was quite coincidental, because it's something I'm trying to incorporate into my everyday life as well. Just slow everything down and really appreciate every moment.
It's a fast-paced world, and that's actually a good tip overall, not just in photography, but sometimes we all just need to slow down a bit, don't we?
Yeah.
And you can get better results in the end.
That's it. Yeah, you can take your time and make sure everything's good at the end.
Yeah. So you obviously have done quite a lot of travelling, you've said. Where has been your favourite place?
My favourite place, apart from Scotland, I would probably have to say Tokyo. In Japan. I don't know if you've ever been yourself. No, it's I definitely recommend it. incredible for photography. It stands itself apart. The street style there is brilliant. The culture is just completely different. I always say to people who have never been, it's pretty much everything you know, just turned upside down. It's like an adventure of a place. But yeah, the opportunities for shooting over there are unparalleled. So I would say Tokyo definitely. Post-COVID, I wasn't travelling as much. Work had slowed down, as obviously it had for everyone. So I found myself getting out a lot more in Scotland.
Yeah.
I've always been quite patriotic. Well, very patriotic.
There's some beautiful places in Scotland.
That's it, yeah.
Loch Lomond's one of my favourites.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? Have you been to Glencoe?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favourites. See the big long stretch of road, the famous road? Yeah, I love the place.
Like, it's stunning.
Yeah, so I kind of found myself really falling back in love with Scotland.
Yeah.
Just post-COVID.
Well, sometimes we always try to go really far to find all these fantastic places, and actually when you look close to home,
it's right on
they're
your
right
doorstep.
in front of you sometimes as well. It's the simple things that are right there.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, have you heard of slow travel? It's like where you don't have to cram in loads of sightseeing whenever you're away.
Yeah, it's something I've only recently heard of. And to be honest, it's something I've never really been good at. Yeah, I've always been quite an impatient person. if you asked my friends or family that, they'd probably tell you it's a massive understatement. But yeah, I've always been kind of trigger happy when it comes to photography and shooting places. So it's something I'm trying to incorporate more into my work as well. As I mentioned earlier, just slowing everything down. And a good example, when I was talking about Edinburgh, I was up Arthur's Seat, see just at the side of the city. I'd went through again crack of dawn one morning to get up there and film a video that I had in mind, and managed to get to the bottom for sunrise. And I was walking up, and it was stunning. It was my first time ever been up on Arthur's Seat, and got to the top, and I had no idea it was a supermoon. So the supermoon was like sitting right behind Edinburgh Castle, and I completely forgot why I was there. You know, my kit was all still in my bag. I didn't even have the chance to take it out before the moon had set. And I just stood for like 10 minutes appreciating it.
Felt the moment rather than capturing it and worrying if you got the right shot afterwards.
Yeah, which was a welcome change for me. And yeah, it's something, again, with my daughter being here, I'm trying to, see the world again through her eyes and just take the time to really appreciate the moments and still work alongside it, but yeah, definitely slow everything down.
Yeah. Okay, you may not have any favourites, but if you had to choose, what's the most amazing picture you feel like you've ever taken?
The most amazing picture? It would have to be a wildlife video clip that I captured last year. I was on holiday with my wife and her parents in the Maldives, and I'd taken my drone, and I was so excited to capture the island and really spend a lot of time in the air because the conditions in the Maldives are just incredible for flying. So we arrived, and I'd said to the hotel, I've got this idea, is it okay to go ahead with? And they said, you're allowed 1 hour out of your duration here to do it, and it has to be at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, right, okay. Obviously I appreciate that, guest privacy and things like that. So I got down to the beach, got the drone up in the air, and I was just taking some, random clips of the beach. I didn't have a plan at the time. I knew I only had an hour. And as I brought it back in, I seen this massive shoal of fish like hugging the coastline up the side of the island. So that's quite interesting. So flying up and down, and I was just getting an eagle-eyed view of that. And I noticed there was 2 reef sharks swimming amongst the shoal. And as they were swimming, I don't know if the fish were scared of them or scared of being eaten, or they just created this sort of negative space around each shark. And it was brilliant. It was like some sort of aura around the shark. At one point, the sharks separated and went separate ways, and then turned and came back on each other. And as they met, they sort of split off. And when they split, the shoal created like a love heart shape around the sharks. And it was just madness. I panicked, and I was like, is this recording? Have I got everything set up correctly? Lucky enough I had. And when it had all blown over, I ran back to my hotel room to double check that I had got everything uploaded. Luckily enough, again, I had, and I threw together a quick video clip, stuck it out with a nice piece of audio, and the reaction was just mad. I couldn't believe it. Even watching it back now, it's like, a beauty of nature moment. something you only see once in your life.
And unplanned.
Unplanned as well,
Yeah.
yeah. See, the best things come when you don't
They
plan
do,
them.
yeah.
But yeah, that was mad. I had National Geographic and things
Oh, wow.
reposting the video, and yeah, I was blown away.
So when you're traveling with your family, do you feel like always the need to try and get these really lovely photographs you have in your head if you go to a location? Or are you like the rest of us and also just do quick snaps on your phone to create memories?
I do, yeah, especially when it comes to my wife and my daughter. Yeah, I want to take those candid moments alongside my work. Yeah, just things for us to share and treasure ourselves as she grows older. And yeah, it works in tandem. It works in tandem with my work as well, because I'm always sort of looking out for stuff to shoot and things. I'll see these wee moments between my wife and my daughter. So yeah, it's always good to capture them as well.
And would you say creativity is a form of escapism for you in terms of
I think so.
work?
I think so. Yeah, especially as I say, when it comes to the editing side, it gives me something to really focus on, and block out everything else, not think about anything else, just focus on the task at hand, which I've found myself getting better at through my work.
Yeah. So you obviously share quite a lot of your work on social media, which is amazing. For you, in terms of how you unwind, you obviously spend a lot of time behind the lens. Do you also spend it in front of the phone? Do you scroll a lot? Do you follow accounts on social media? Do you get inspired by that? Or do you find time actually away from that?
A bit of both, I'd say. I follow a lot of wildlife accounts, and one thing that's good about Instagram and the algorithm and things like that is it really tailors your likes to you. So I find myself consuming a lot of positive stuff on Instagram, especially a lot of informative wildlife videos and National Geographic type stuff. And it goes hand in hand with my own work. It gives me massive inspiration. It will give me inspiration to go out and shoot more. If I ever find myself in a sort of work slump or something like that, it'll really inspire me to go out and create. Apart from that, just like anyone else, I watch films, as I was touching on earlier on. I've really found myself drawn to cinematography recently, and it kind of annoys my wife because we'll be watching a film together and she'll be so invested in the film, and I'll be talking about how the scene's set up, and I won't be paying attention to the storyline or anything. I'll be asking her questions. But yeah, it's just
the work that's gone into that.
Yeah, that's it.
And you appreciate that.
Yeah, and I can take my own away from the film, out with the storyline itself.
Yeah. And whenever you travel, Jack, and you go to a new city or a new country, obviously you may have seen other people's imagery or photography from that city or area. And sometimes, for me, who's not in that photographer sphere, a lot of people take pictures at the same places. Is that something that you find quite difficult because everyone has their own style, but also everyone also does the same thing? How do you find your own?
To touch on what I was saying earlier, I think you can have so many people or so many creators taking content in the same area or of the same subject, but it's how you put your unique spin on it, and how you separate yourself from other artists that really showcases your work better, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah, just off the top of my head, touching back on Edinburgh, that famous staircase that looks up to the castle. I think it's a lane. I've never been myself.
I've been.
Have you been?
Yeah,
I take it you've got a nice picture.
Photo there.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll have a look at your picture and I'll go, okay, what could I do differently there? And but yeah, again, that's what I love about photography. You can put your own spin on it, and everyone's work's different, but it can all be great.
Yeah, for anyone listening, it's like one of the most Instagrammable spots in Edinburgh.
That's
and I'm very guilty if I go to a city that I would look for a perfect photographic spot because it's a busy time, but I also want to get that one shot. And for me, that's just an easy thing to do. You're standing in this lovely laneway, the castle's in the distance,
stunning.
And it's the most perfect location, beautiful shot.
Yeah, I'll need to look at your picture. I'm excited
as
to
you
look
say,
there.
there's probably like 10,000 people have done the exact same spot, and that's the difference, is trying to make it unique.
Yeah. It's using it. When I'm doing it, I'll look, as I said, I'll look at different compositions and I'll try and get different angles and things like that, and just showcase it maybe in a different light. But all works great.
So you create some amazing content. And back to traveling again. When traveling, what tips do you have for others who want to create some beautiful content and make the most out of their destination?
Probably to head off the beaten path a little. You can find that you can still capture those iconic landmarks, maybe just, for example, from a distance. You know, if you head off the Eiffel Tower, for example, a couple of miles north, there's an incredible viewpoint. I think it's called the Sacré-Cœur. Looks directly down at the Eiffel Tower, but you know, it's a speck in the distance. But if you're taking a picture from there, you're getting it from a completely different angle. And there's hundreds of trees around, so you can frame your shot nicely. So yeah, I'd say head off the beaten path and
live a bit more slowly when you're away, rather than going straight for the big shiny thing.
Don't head straight to it. Yeah, soak it all in. Take your time, enjoy it, and the opportunities will come to you.
Yeah, and in terms of people who maybe just have a phone or iPhones or smartphones, what are the tips in terms of using that? Do you always need to have fancy cameras, fancy gadgets, drones?
Not at all, no. I mean, it helps, definitely helps. So if it's something you're really interested in, definitely go for it. I've loved every step of my journey with it. But no, I mean, the technology you have in your pocket these days is absolutely incredible. I'm a sucker for the latest gadget. I'm always upgrading my iPhone to the latest one, and the technology is advancing all the time. So I love playing around with it. I try and incorporate a lot of iPhone work into my Instagram as well, just so it's not always that, you know, super high quality. And as much as I like doing that, I find I like the variety. I like having the different stuff to use as well.
And when you are traveling with your family, Jack, how do you balance the work life? You know, if you're inspired by somewhere and all of a sudden you get this creative flair where you're wanting to shoot this beautiful scene, but you're also a dad and a partner.
Yeah.
How do you juggle the balance between managing both of those?
I just don't do it. No, again, as I was saying, I just want to slow everything down now.
Yeah.
Now that my daughter's born, I want to savour all these tiny little moments I've got with her. I still want to have the content, obviously, to look back on in years to come, and obviously show her. With the work I've been putting out recently, I've had so much feedback from the community that we've grown online, just saying how incredible it is that my little girl's got all this to look back on when she's older. And, you know, it's heartwarming stuff to hear.
Yeah.
And it really gives you a sense of accomplishment. And as much as that's great, and I'll continue to do it, I think I'm just going to take a little step back and really, really savour the moments and I guess slow everything down.
Okay, and lastly, the one thing we ask all our guests is, what is your unready routine in the evening to wind down before bed?
To wind down, it's changed recently, obviously. It's been a bottle of milk for my little girl and either Cat in the Hat or green eggs and ham as a bedtime story, which I find a lot better to relax at night with.
Yeah, and whenever you get her down, you've got a few hours to yourself before bed.
That's it, yeah, and I'm utilising that time without work, definitely now.
You do? Yeah, you don't work in the evenings?
No, not
whenever
at all.
You get that quiet
which
time?
is usually about 7 o'clock. She's off to bed now, so yeah, I'm savouring all that time.
Okay. And books, phones?
Sometimes a little bit of phone. I've been recently starting to read as well, so yeah, I'm making good use of my time at nights.
Get all the sleep that you can.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jack, for coming. I feel totally inspired. I love all your work. It's been a real pleasure to chat everything with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Sleepovers, a podcast brought to you by Novotel. Do listen back to our previous episodes, and to check out more, follow us on our social media platforms, Novotel Hotels. Thanks for listening.